Hi, my friends. Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. Great to see you on this Thursday. Hope things are well. A lot to get into in this video, so we're going to get started. If you are new to the channel or even been watching for a while, we do have a different format for these daily forecast videos. A lot more information on the screen. This is designed for you to get the information you need in a very easy format. Left-hand side of the screen is going to be the big weather headlines I'll be covering in today's video. Keep a close eye to the bottom of your screen. That ticker adds information in real time. What's really important, impactful weather, and we've got a lot of areas today under some thunderstorm advisories. We have a lot of rip current statement risk and some marine advisories, and you can keep up to date with the impactful weather in your area there on the bottom of your screen. Of course, we have your 5-day forecast, including rain chances for the next 5 days, and halfway through the video, we'll switch it up and show you what's happening on the marine side of things there. Okay, so let's get started with what's going on right now in the Bahamas. That's where we're going to kick off the video. Cold front has moved through. This is a very impactful front, and it's bringing a lot of heavy thunderstorms today from the northern sides of the Yucatan, western Cuba, central and northern Bahamas, back up towards Bermuda. These thunderstorms have sunk their way south towards places like Andros, Eleuthera, Nassau, New Providence, Cat Island for today. They produce some locally heavy rain. There is a severe thunderstorm advisory in effect right now for the central and the northern Bahamas. Areas of flooding rains, potentially some hail, and even some brief water spouts or an isolated tornado cannot be ruled out given these conditions. If you guys live in this area, let me know in the comment section below what you're seeing, showing you the visible satellite imagery, a little bit of spin in the atmosphere right now. So again, can't rule out that brief water spout, but this is just going to be some impactful active weather across this area the remainder of the day. Now the front will slowly sink to the south this evening and overnight, and this will bring additional heavy rain to Cat Island, San Salvador, Rum Cay, Exuma, and Long Island before it begins to stall out. North of the boundary, things are pretty quiet right now after a rougher earlier part of the day. In Bimini, Grand Bahama, Walker's Key, and the Abaco areas, we're dry through the Keys and portions of southeast Florida as well. And again, the front settling far enough south where the drier air is beginning to filter in. Now, if you follow this front back on over towards Bermuda, this is going to be the next headline because this front is making a huge impact towards Bermuda and then farther south and west. The winds in Bermuda today have been over 45 miles in some areas. For time to time, we do have a thunderstorm advisory that is currently in effect and a special small craft warning up there as well. So locally heavy downpours, some big embedded thunderstorms, and extremely gusty winds. Small craft really need to be very cautious and more than likely remain in port. Additional wet weather is likely there through tomorrow before things will dry out as the front begins to stall and just kind of begin to fade away. Thunderstorms are breaking out at the hour with a lot of heavy lightning as well. Cienfuegos, but especially up towards Matanzas and Havana there in the northern sides of Cuba. And then the front does extend back into the northern sides of the Yucatan where at the hour, just a couple of thunderstorms are just beginning to fire up Cancun and Cozumel. You give it a couple of hours and the thunderstorms here are likely to be a little bit more prominent. So beachgoers, be aware. It's going to be a little bit wet the next couple of days here in portions of the Yucatan, helping to break the heat if nothing else. But obviously the beachgoers probably not enjoying the thunderstorm activity for today. So that's the impacts of this front. And again, it's a fairly significant front for this time of the year with a lot of moisture to develop along it. Now, as we get into our Friday and the weekend, there's not going to be as much rain for the southeast Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos with this front as it stalls. However, the moisture-laden winds coming out of the south still likely to produce some rain for the Caicos and Grand Turk back up toward the Acklands area, but I'm still focusing in on places like Long Island North for the best chance for a few scattered showers and storms. Been a quiet day across the Cayman Islands for today. What do you say I put on the current temperatures here? Why not? Let me bring those up. Keeping an eye on Jamaica at the hour, we still have a nice southeast flow, so it does develop some cloud coverage in interior locations and tries to drive whatever rain is developing into the northwest sides of the island. This has been the classic pattern the last several weeks over Jamaica, where places like Savlamar and Negril, and especially Cambridge, Montego Bay, and Lucy have a better chance for storms compared to areas in the central and the eastern side of the island. So, you get to Mandeville, Maypen, but especially Linstead East, Kingston, Port Antonio, and although I can't rule out a passing shower, we're still mainly dry. Have some video to show you here. This is going to be from Sadine McDonald in Mandeville. Now, I'll say this is from a couple of days ago, and I apologize, Sadine, for just bringing this video on now. I'm still getting used to the new workflow, but this is a very common sight in places like Mandeville where you have a fair amount of cloud coverage in the afternoon, but there's no vertical development. There's not a lot of lift in the atmosphere to take that moisture and squeeze it out into some locally heavy rain. And the cloud coverage, it might seem like it's okay, but it also makes things pretty stuffy outside, and the heat indices have been up. If you want to send me a picture or video from your area, mymeteomundo@gmail.com is the easiest way to do it. Include your name and, of course, where that picture or video is from, and keep those videos under 20 seconds. Me and the email server appreciates that. Okay, back out to what's been happening across the area on this Thursday. Trying to get a couple of scattered showers and storms to develop in Hispaniola, mainly on the southern side of the island. Temperatures coming down a little bit with some of the cloud coverage, and there could be some rain right now across some of the interior higher elevation areas. I'm not expecting as much rain today towards Punta Cana, but it's a possibility to catch some of that rain as well. Now, one of the other big weather headlines I want to talk about is what's going on in Puerto Rico and portions of the Virgin Islands on this Wednesday. We got a couple of problems here. You're going to see those at the bottom of your screen. The first thing is there is a heat advisory in effect for portions of the coastal areas of the island and some of the U.S. Virgin Islands, including, of course, St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John. When we look at the heat indices across the area for today, they're going to be climbing into the mid and the upper 90s and maybe even the triple digits. But the air is just so darn humid outside, so those who aren't heat tolerant could become ill. So please keep that in mind. There is also some very dangerous rip currents across the area for today as well, and just a couple of showers to try and cool things off at least a little bit here. What do you say we take a live look to the radar out of Puerto Rico? And again, we've been favoring northern areas if anything else. There's a couple more showers today near Fajardo and just east of San Juan, and it's really spotty out there. Aguadilla, Isabela has a little bit more rain, kind of just developing and moving to the north and to the west, but feels like temperatures today, St. Thomas 96, Christian said St. Croix 93, even Roadtown, Tortola coming in at about 94. So pretty rough weather there. Just again, keeping in mind that you want to take a break or two in the afternoon hours if you can. Okay, back out to the big perspective. Let's get into what's happening across the Eastern Caribbean for today. So you keep the weather headlines off, that's fine. What do I want to do here? I want to bring on the visible satellite imagery. There we go. And we'll throw that back into motion. Still limited moisture across the area today. There's a little bit coming back in towards Guadeloupe, Dominica, and Martinique. And you'll see in my forecast these areas have a little bit better chance for showers in a couple of spots. Nothing is extremely high the next few days in this area. And I do expect it to dry out a bit for Montserrat, Antigua Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Bart's, Sabas, St. Eustatius, and the Anguilla areas. But still some locally, heavier downpours are possible. Swells are up. You're going to see a lot of marine statements here across the Antilles for today, including the Windward Islands, Barbados, and St. Lucia, and SVG. All have some kind of swell information that you'll see at the bottom of your screen. Small craft need to exercise caution in these areas, including the Carriacou area, Grenada, a couple of passing showers, TNT, but so many of my friends here have let me know how dry it's been in this part of the world. ABC Islands, well, what else is new, guys? A heck of a lot of wind for you guys as well. Bring on those wind gusts. There's Willemstad again, well over 30-mile-an-hour breeze. Aruba comes in, Oranjestad right around 40. Again, not a lot of rain to break the heat, at least at this point in time. And unfortunately, that's a trend that I expect to continue. We've continued to see some heavier rain over Panama. Again, this is all in association with an area of low pressure. Just a lot of tropical moisture beginning to stream in, beginning to build in across the far eastern Pacific and the southwest Caribbean. It is that time of the year. It's a slow but sure thing until we get the monsoon trough to really get activated and pull a lot of this moisture north. So there is a big stark difference between what's been happening in places like Panama and Costa Rica and areas north where it is still bone dry and it is still exceptionally hot. Temperatures today are quite warm through Nicaragua and Honduras, Belize, including Roatan, Utila, Guanaja. There is a heat advisory in effect for the interior sections of Belize, including San Ignacio. and I don't have a lot of rain in the forecast for you guys, unfortunately, anytime soon. Friends, as we get into the rest of the video, I do appreciate you guys taking a quick second and subscribing to the channel if you haven't as of yet. If you really appreciate the new format, all the information we're putting on your screen, let someone know, a family or friend who maybe has interest in the Caribbean or who does some travel or who lives in our area, let them know about the channel. I really appreciate that. And of course, a simple thing to do is just to like the video. It all helps out, and I appreciate all my friends doing that. Keeping an eye on the Saharan dust layer. We are going to see it activate again coming through. Now, I do expect a moderate plume and some haze in the air for the central and the eastern sides of the Caribbean over the weekend. The next plume that's going to be coming through shouldn't be as concentrated, and although there'll be a little bit of dust in the air that does get pulled all the way into the Western Caribbean, it's not going to go too far north next week, and it's not going to be as concentrated. So hopefully anyone with respiratory issues that have been struggling with that is not going to have as much of a concern for next week. Now, it's May, right? We're not into hurricane season as of yet. June 1st, I'm keeping an eye on things. And as I do so, there are two tropical waves to discuss here in the what we call intertropical convergence zone. They're very hard to delineate this time of the year. They're areas of moisture. They get squished to the north with a lot of drier air. Again, you know, with the wind direction coming off the African coast as it is right now, all that drier air, the dust, is getting pulled through the Atlantic basin. Eventually, later in the summertime, the air turns more out of the south, so you have north to south winds that gets pulled along the coastline rather than west, and that allows these tropical waves to get a lot more active with that moisture and go farther north in latitude. Of course, I'll always be monitoring those tropical waves for you guys, but look, you know, at this point in time, we're relatively quiet. They'll bring some moisture into South America. They'll try and sneak in a little bit of moisture to the windward islands, but still, with a composite look at the atmosphere, what you see right now is a lot of drier air in red through most of our area. It is this cold front that is bringing in the exceptionally much more moisture-laden air, especially from the Bahamas on up towards the Bermuda area. But behind that front is going to be some drier forecast for you. So now it's time to look at the marine forecast, because there are going to be some wind issues the next several days. If you do have boating interests, if you are a fisherman, just please keep in mind that this is what I do anticipate for a lot of our area. When we look at the rainfall forecast, okay, so who is going to get wet for the weekend ahead? Now, this isn't horrible news for a lot of spots. We could desperately use the rain in a lot of locations, but let's talk about where I do expect these showers to kind of break out. And we'll start with what's going to be happening here in the Bahamas. Again, the front stalling out. Scattered rain should continue for Andros and New Providence and Eleuthera, Cat Island, Long Island, and Exuma. Rum Key, San Salvador, mainly as far south as the Acklands, for some scattered showers and some locally heavy rainfall. These areas need to anticipate a pretty stormy Thursday night into early on Friday, and the front will still be around long enough on Friday to produce some scattered showers before it begins to fade out. Now, you notice that it's not as if we're just completely done with the rain. The front is still going to produce a boundary, and southerly winds and southeast winds coming through the western Atlantic to go along with another weak trough that'll be setting up shop could produce another area of rain to watch out for. Now, does it stay off of the coast, the Atlantic coastline of the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos? Potentially, but this is an area where we could see more active weather early next week. It might also kick up the sea conditions for the offshore waters of the Atlantic, so boaters keep that in mind. The shelter locations look a little bit better. Scattered rain over Cuba. Again, the front beginning to fade should dry things out again in places like Merida. We'll be back above 100 for a daytime high. Boy, we could use some rain in places like Belize City, Guatemala, La Ceiba, San Pedro Sula, Roatan, Utila, Guanaja. If you like the sunshine, you're going to enjoy the forecast the next few days. Eventually, there's a little bit of green on the map, and I'm optimistic by early to mid next week, we're going to be talking about better rain chances in these spots. Moisture should continue to lift to the north through Central America. It's going to impact Nicaragua first over the weekend, and then Honduras, and then eventually towards Guatemala and Belize. It's kind of a slow but more than likely sure thing coming in. I only expect a few scattered showers the next couple of days across the Cayman Islands. Weather's looking pretty good. You're not going to buy a lot of rain over Jamaica. Again, it's still the same pattern where the northwest sides of the island will have a better chance for a few showers. Eastern areas, including the Kingston area, will more than likely be dry. A rogue shower or two is about the best I can do for you in the forecast. Some locally heavy downpours are possible over the Dominican Republic and Haiti beginning over the weekend. If you saw the 5-day forecast, rain chances are likely to go higher for places like Port-au-Prince, Santo Domingo, Baja Punta Cana, even on up towards the Puerto Plata areas here. The concentration of rain could be more significant in the higher elevations, and of course, as that moisture comes back down in the lower elevations, you did get the opportunity for some localized flooding. So I'll be monitoring that situation, especially across the DR. Scattered rain to try and break the heat across Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Nothing extremely concentrated here. The winds will still be up. The rip currents are still going to be an issue. Scattered showers to the rest of the Eastern Caribbean. Again, from time to time, a few of these islands like Guadeloupe and Dominica and Martinique might just catch that nice moisture train and get a little bit better chance for showers. But these are brisk showers with the winds. They're not going to last very long, and for most spots, they're not going to add up to a ton of rain. More than likely, we're looking at less than 10 millimeters of rain, less than 1/4 of an inch in most spots for an entire day. 5-day rainfall totals look like this. We'll start off in Bermuda, and again, an area that could get some locally heavy downpours here. So when we take a look at the numbers here, you're going to see several inches of rain in Bermuda. We're still looking at 3, maybe even 4+ inches of rain the next 5 days. A lot of that is likely to fall, though, in the next 48 hours. Again, the best chance for heavier downpours extends back into the central Bahamas, where some areas like New Providence and on over towards Andros and Eleuthera, Cat Island, could see a 1 to 2 inches of rain. So central, northern, even northwest Bahamas could get into a few heavier downpours, kind of somewhat thin on the west to east side more than anything, rather than elongated north to south. And this again will spell some heavier downpours for portions of Cuba. Not as much rain for Cancun and Cozumel after today, but still locally about an inch here. Again, eventually it's just nice to see. Look at the moisture developing along the coast and then working its way up. It's not to Belize and the Bay Islands yet, but it's trying to get there. For Jamaica, again, interior, northwest areas, we're going to get some spots, 1/2 inch, maybe an inch of rain. Some of that could fall in just one day, but it's good to see a few more scattered heavier showers there. And then, as I've mentioned, locally heavy downpours, higher elevation sections of western sides of the DR could spell some flooding issues. I'll be monitoring that. Just overall, this area is likely to get wetter for Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and again, portions of the Antilles. Not as much concentrated here, but a few areas above an inch of rain. Looking at the wave heights, I'll drop off the marine forecast for now. Still going to see some elevated sea conditions in the central side of the Caribbean. That could prompt the large wave and strong wind advisory to return for Jamaica. Otherwise, again, later in the period, watching another front coming off the United States East Coast, blasting through, kicking up the wind and waves again for Bermuda, eastern sides of Florida, most of the Bahamas, staying with our easterlies through most of the Caribbean as well. So when we look at kind of what I'm going to be watching for the next several days, it's this. It's how much more rain is going to fall with our front, Cuba, Bahamas, Bermuda, with a lot of wind. Then we'll be watching the tropical waves and the moisture coming in associated with that and trying to build in some of the scattered showers through portions of Central America and getting some rain to some much needed areas here that have been so dry. As always, I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know in the comments section below where you're viewing from. You got a question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in that comment section below as well. As I leave you, thank you for liking and subscribing. If you appreciate things, I do appreciate you subscribing and liking the channel. Friends, have a great rest of your day, and I'm back tomorrow with the latest forecast. Take care.